first boil. If you're reading this, I am likely rotting. Perhaps you found this journal in the hollow of the old ash tree behind the manor, or tucked beneath the floorboards of the apothecary's house. If so, take it, read it, and do not look for me. My name was Henri, and I was a healer. I stayed when others ran, and in staying, I brought death. The boy arrived just after first light. His father carried him like a sack of grain, arms dangling, head twitching. His mother followed, red-eyed, her apron crusted with dried vomit. "He burns," she said. "We don't know why." His name was Micel, 8 years old, pale as milk, with lips the color of ash. I had seen this before, once, long ago in a port town, but never here. I unwrapped him carefully. The stench hit first, sour, sweet, wrong. Beneath his tunic, black boils swelled along his ribs, tight and glossy, as if something inside clawed to get out. One pulsed visibly. Another had already burst, leaving a hole the size of a coin, oozing thick pus tinged with blood. His tongue was black at the edges. His breath came in short, wet gasps like drowning, but slower. "Leave," I said. His mother fell to her knees. "Please, leave." "No." I didn't wait to see them go. I doused a rag in rose vinegar and tied it around my face. The beaked mask had cracked days ago, and the herbs inside were dried to dust. But the smell, it never faded. I lit wormwood, salt, and crushed garlic in the brazier. The smoke curled like ghost hands around the ceiling beams. I pressed my fingers against the boy's neck, swelling. His lymph nodes were bursting under the skin. When I touched his belly, the flesh gave way. It felt like pressing into soaked bread. He whimpered, then began to scream. He screamed until his throat bled. His nails scratched the wooden bench until splinters lodged in his fingers. I held him down and whispered prayers I barely believed in. By dusk, he no longer screamed. His eyes stared past me as if watching someone I could not see. His left cheek began to sag. The skin peeled back, exposing teeth beneath translucent flesh. His lips had fused to his gums. He died with his mouth open. I washed the body with wine and ash, wrapped it in linens soaked in pitch, and carried him out through the alley behind my hut. The sky was violet with dusk. Crows circled above, silent, patient. They always came first. I burned him alone. No one followed, not even his parents. The mark spreads. The next morning, there were 2 more at my door. A butcher with blood in his cough. A girl who couldn't stop scratching at her armpits. The lumps were forming. I turned them away. The day after, 7 came, then 12. One brought a basket of coins, another a chicken. One simply said, "I'll die anyway. Let it be in your care." I tried. God help me, I tried. Vinegar baths, ground sage, powdered sapphire, leeches, prayers, smoke, silver knives. Nothing stopped it. I opened a man's groin to drain the swelling and watched black filth bubble out like stew. A week later, my apprentice fell ill. Julian, only 16. He had helped me bury the boy. Now he coughed red strings into his hand and asked me if he would be next. I didn't answer. I crushed poppy seeds into wine to dull his pain. He died in his sleep, mouth open, black tongue stiff as leather. I burned him with the others. After Julien's death, no one called me healer. Some spat at my feet when I passed, one threw a stone, but most simply stared, eyes sunken, skin tight, waiting. One night, I was called to a cottage where the entire family had locked themselves inside. Neighbors said they hadn't moved in 2 days. I broke the door down. Inside, all 5 were dead, faces blackened, limbs twisted. One child's eyes had ruptured in her skull. She held a rag doll in her fists. No one claimed the bodies. No one helped bury them. I used my own cart. The fire pit outside the wall smoked for days. I was the carrier. 3 nights after the family in the cottage, I woke to something strange. Silence. No screams. No coughs. No sobbing outside my window. Just the distant crackle of fire and the flutter of wings. I stumbled to the basin. My reflection looked back. Gray skin, eyes rimmed with red, cheeks hollow. I splashed wine on my face. Then I saw it. A lump, just beneath my jawline, small, hard, warm to the touch. A second heart pulsing under the skin. I stared at it in the mirror. It stared back. It was my turn. That day, I didn't see anyone. Not because no one came, they did. They knocked, they shouted, but I didn't answer. I sat in the dark with a hot blade in the fire, wondering if I had the strength to cut it out. But you can't carve a plague away. You can only carry it. The fever came that night. I shook until my teeth chipped. I vomited bile laced with blood. I hallucinated, saw the boy Micel walking past my door, his face half gone, whispering in a voice like dry leaves. You brought it to us. I screamed at the shadows. They screamed back. When the fever broke, it was dawn. I stumbled outside. The streets were empty. Rot hung in the air like fog. I walked to the square. A dog growled from under a cart. A man saw me, dropped his bucket, and ran. I passed 2 children who stared at me with wide, unblinking eyes. One whispered, "That's him." I realized I wasn't just a healer anymore. I was a warning. The heretic's cure. I went to the church. Father Robard was already dead, found in the bell tower, eyes pecked out, hands blistered, fingers fused together like wax. The altar was cold, the cross black with soot. I lit a candle anyway. Then I opened the book. Not the scriptures, those were dust now. I opened the old texts, the hidden ones, the pages no priest ever read aloud. Recipes, symbols, dust ground from the teeth of hanged men, oil from a murdered swan, instructions for boiling the breath of the dead. I needed a cure, or something like it. I took wormwood, sulfur, and a sliver of my own blood, boiled them in wine, inhaled the fumes until my nose bled. Then I passed out. When I awoke, my hands had blistered. My gums were bleeding, but the swelling had stopped growing. Had I stopped the plague in myself, or simply slowed it? I returned to the streets. They watched me like I was a ghost, and maybe I was. I healed no one that day, but I did not fall, and the crows for once stayed away. The whispering doors. I left the village before dawn. There was no one left to save, and no one who wanted me there. They'd begun to mark my door with ash crosses. One boy threw dung at my window the night before. I heard someone call me plague-born. Another said I slept with devils. They weren't wrong. The fever hadn't returned, but the dreams had worsened. Micel, Julianne, my mother, all of them, with ruptured faces, whispering from walls, from drains, from behind locked doors. I packed only what I could carry. My journal, a bag of herbs, a vial of quicksilver, the blade I used for draining boils, and the mask, always the mask. I walked through fields of blackened corn and pastures where dead sheep lay bloating under the sun. The silence was louder than any scream. I reached a new village by dusk. No bells, no barking dogs, no smoke from the chimneys. But there were eyes. Curtains shifted as I passed. Doors clicked shut. Someone whispered from behind a gate, "He walks with death." Again. The empty house. I found a manor house at the edge of the woods untouched. No broken windows, no burn marks. Even the door was still latched. Inside, the air was stale but not rotten. The hearth was cold. I built a fire and fell asleep on a fur rug before the embers. I dreamed of the church again, but this time it was upside down. The crucifix was bleeding. The pews were filled with rats dressed in robes, and the organ pipes moaned with human breath. When I awoke, something was breathing beside me. I turned. Nothing there, but the floorboards were wet. I explored the house. On the third floor, I found a child's room untouched. Toys still on the shelf, a doll on the bed. Its eyes had been plucked out. There were claw marks on the inside of the closet door. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Every time I blinked, I saw the boy again. Not Micel, someone else. Taller, thinner, with nails like thorns and boils on every inch of his flesh. He stood in the corner and just waited. I tried to write, but my fingers cramped. I dipped the quill in ink and instead tasted blood. My teeth had begun to loosen. I didn't scream. I laughed, because I understood, finally. I hadn't survived the plague. I'd become part of it. The walls that breathe. On the 7th day in the manor, the walls began to sweat. Not from rain, not from heat. From within. Beads of moisture formed patterns, outlines of faces, open mouths, clutching hands. I touched one and it was warm, almost pulsing. I moved my bedding to the kitchen. The fire wouldn't light anymore. So I sat in the dark, chewing dried herbs to keep my mouth from bleeding, scribbling words that blurred with each new line. Outside, I heard a bell. Not a church bell. A handbell, like the ones the plague bearers rang when they dragged bodies through the street. Bring out your dead. Except I was the only one alive. Or so I thought. That night, someone knocked 3 times. Sharp, calm, patient. I didn't move. Then I heard it again, but from inside the house. The phantom garden. I found the courage or madness to step outside again. The garden had changed. Roses had bloomed black with veins of red. The vines crept along the manor walls like fingers. In the well, I saw my own reflection, but it didn't move when I did. It blinked slower, its mouth open. It mouthed something. "Join us." I staggered back and vomited into the grass. Blood, bile, worms. Real or not, I felt them in my throat. I collapsed, and the crows came back. They lined the roof above me, heads tilted, watching, waiting. I awoke in the cellar. I don't remember how I got there. It smelled of rust and old salt. The walls were carved with names, dozens, maybe hundreds. Some I recognized. Micel, Julien, Father Robar. My own, carved twice. Once large, once small, both bleeding. The mirror that didn't blink. On the final day, I lit the last candle. My hand shook, and wax dripped onto my thigh. I didn't feel it. I was numb now. I took the mirror from the bedroom wall and dragged it to the fire pit outside. The stars had come out, a sky full of frost. I stared at the mirror. It didn't reflect me. It reflected a mask. Not mine. An older one, with golden trim, eyes like knives. It stared back. I asked, "What am I now?" It answered, "You were a healer. Now, you're the lesson." The rotting god. I don't know how many hours passed. Time was gone. My skin had begun to split along my arms, thin cracks, black at the edges, oozing a yellow pus that smelled like rust and mold. My fingertips peeled. My right eye wept blood, but I could still see, and what I saw, I won't ever forget. From the woods came a sound, not footsteps, not wind, a dragging, like something enormous, pulling its own weight through branches and bones. I peered from the window, and I saw it, a shape taller than any man, with limbs too long, bending wrong, its face hidden behind a plague mask, ancient and golden. Its chest was swollen, a giant bubo, pulsing with light from inside. It didn't walk. It floated, like disease itself carried on the breeze. And when it passed, the flowers in the garden rotted in seconds. I fell to my knees, and I prayed, not for life, for death. But death didn't come, only silence. The worm that whispered, I couldn't eat. The worms inside the walls had started speaking, not loudly, not in words I could understand, but I knew they were speaking to me, through me. I opened my journal to write, and instead carved letters into the table with my blade. Letters I didn't remember learning. Symbols like twisted limbs. Between each one, I saw eyes. Every time I blinked, watching, recording. The mask I once wore, my healer's mask, now hung above the fireplace. But it looked different. Its eyes had narrowed. Its beak curved sharper, and beneath it, the wood was stained red, not like blood, like paint, as if something had drawn a mouth beneath it. Grinning, I screamed until my voice cracked, and something in the chimney screamed back. The final bleeding. I woke with my legs soaked in blood. I thought it was the wounds, but it wasn't mine. It trailed from the stairs above, thick as tar, down every step, into the cellar. I followed, down, past the names, past the bones I swear weren't there before, into the pit at the center of the floor. There was no bottom, only reflection of every person I failed. Micel, Julian, Marjorie, the father, the girl with the rash, the baby with the torn throat, my own apprentice, myself. The reflection whispered, "Write it down." So I did. The mask wants to stay. I tried to leave. Truly, I packed my satchel, took the last scraps of bread, wrapped myself in my black coat and stepped into the dawn. But the forest had changed. Paths that once led to the village now twisted back to the manor. Trees leaned inward, like ribs closing around a heart. Every direction I walked, I returned to the house. Once, I walked for hours. When I finally collapsed from exhaustion, I looked up and saw the front door open, waiting. The house had no windows anymore, only eyes. I crawled back inside, and the mask was on the table, waiting. Clean, polished. I hadn't touched it in days. It should have been dusty, covered in rot like everything else. But it gleamed, like it wanted to be worn. I don't remember putting it on, but I woke up wearing it. I am the fever. The air in the manor thickened. Breathing was like pulling smoke through cloth. My skin flaked in sheets. My nose bled constantly. My fingernails had detached in the night. But the worst was my mind. I forgot my name for hours at a time. Then I remembered names I shouldn't know. Names of the dead, names of the unborn. I saw a woman buried under the floorboards. I saw a child in the attic with her face chewed off. I saw a man crucified in the basement, whispering Latin spells backward. None of them were real, but they were. I was their priest now. I stopped writing with ink. I used what dripped from my arms. It was darker, thicker, more honest. Sometimes I hear voices reading what I write in my own voice, but older, slower, like the bones of a sentence dragging across stone. Sometimes the pages move on their own. Sometimes I can't read them at all. The door without shadow. Today, I opened the back door, the one no wind ever touched. There was no garden anymore, only bones, miles of them, arranged like roots from a black tree. And in the distance, something burning, but it didn't give off light, only heat, like rage. I heard the boy again, Micel. He was standing by the well, smiling. "Now you know," he said. I tried to ask, "Know what?" But my tongue didn't work anymore. Only the mask spoke now. It whispered for me. It wrote for me. I only bled. The voice behind the wall. Last night I heard breathing behind the wall. Not mine. Not human. It wheezed wet, hungry like lungs filled with boiling tar. Every breath made the beams tremble. I asked it, "Are you the end?" It answered, "You are." I dragged myself to the hearth. The coals were dead, the air cold. I tried to light a fire, but my fingers no longer bent. The joints had locked, stiff and black. I bit open my thumb and let the blood drip on the tinder. It flared green, then violet, then died again. The house didn't want fire anymore, only rot. I lay in the corner with my journal on my chest. The pages turned on their own, windless, soulless, page after page of red ink, some with words, some with only names, some just symbols, twisting, pulsing shapes that made my eyes ache. I don't remember writing them, but they remember me. When the crows spoke, they've stopped circling. They perch now, dozens of them, on the roof, the windowsills, the rafters inside. They watch me with eyes like polished obsidian, reflecting not who I am, but what I've become. One hopped down and stood beside my bed. It opened its beak and spoke, not with sound, with memory. It showed me Micel's mother, weeping in the mud, Julian's fingers curled in death, Father Robard screaming in the tower, the manor burning, except it hadn't. Yet, I saw flames consuming the walls around me, walls still standing. The fire was memory and prophecy. I asked the crow, "Am I already dead?" It tilted its head and flew through the ceiling. My flesh remembers. My body is no longer mine. The skin hangs loose in some places, too tight in others. I have boils where there were none before. One split on my chest and bled maggots. I didn't scream. I apologized. I whisper to each part of me as it fails. Thank you. To my hands, now bone thin. To my mouth, missing 2 teeth. To my eyes, dry and cracked. I am decomposing with purpose, like fruit returning to the soil. 9, 6. The church inside me. I haven't moved in hours or days. I can't tell anymore, but I feel them now. The others moving inside the house. Not rats, not people, the others. They walk without footsteps. They speak without tongues. They are shaped like those I failed, but taller, thinner, shadow carved. They hum when I sleep, a low vibration that makes my teeth ache. I think they're building something in the walls, or maybe inside me. My ribs itch from within. When I press my fingers between the bones, I feel something beating. Not my heart. Something else. Something older. The door, without return. This morning, I think it was morning, I found a door at the end of the cellar stairs. I swear it wasn't there before. Its handle was bone, its hinges rusted flesh. It breathed. I pressed my ear against it and heard thousands whispering in unison, "We remember you." I didn't open it. Not yet, but I will. I returned to the upper room and sat by the window. Outside, the manor's garden has gone black. Every leaf brittle, every root ash. A single tree remains. It grows upside down. Its branches dig into the ground. Its roots reach into the sky. And hanging from those roots are people, not dead, not alive, swinging slowly. One of them wears my face. It looked at me and smiled. The final entry begins. I am cold now, truly. Not the cold of winter or sickness, but the cold of stone, of finality. My teeth are gone. My hair has fallen out in clumps. I no longer bleed. What leaks from my wounds is clear, thin, like the last thoughts leaving the body. I no longer feel hunger, nor fear, only the need to finish this, to leave the truth, to carve a scream into these pages, one last time, because someone, somewhere, might read it, and they'll know that I was not a monster. I was a man who stayed too long, who tried too hard, who let it in. The candle goes out. I lit the last candle. It flickers beside this page. Each word I write bends the flame. My hand is barely more than bone and tremor now. I can no longer feel the pen, only the motion. My breath comes slow, thin. There's a sound outside the door. Not knocking, not footsteps. Something older, a shuffling, like parchment dragged over wet stone. The door is opening on its own. I won't stop it. I no longer fear what's behind it. I fear what's waiting inside me. I become the mask. The mask is fused to my face. I can't tell where the leather ends and skin begins. My voice, when it comes, echoes dry, hollow, wrong. Not mine anymore. I saw myself in the window pane, but not as I am, as I was, as I could have been if I had left, if I had run, if I hadn't opened the door that night for Micel, if I hadn't buried the others, if I hadn't tried to play God with herbs and bones. But I did, and now the mask speaks for me. It says, "This is your gospel. This is your penance. You are not the healer. You are the memory of the sickness." I accept it. I do. Let this final page carry what remains of my soul. If you find this, if you are reading this, leave. Do not touch the walls. Do not wear the mask. Do not say my name aloud. Burn the house. Burn this book. Scatter the ashes where no man walks. Forget me. Forget this place. Forget what grows in the earth when no one is left to stop it. And if you feel the lump in your neck, if your breath grows shallow, if you hear whispers behind the door, you waited too long. Let the crows have me. If this story haunted you, imagine what else the Middle Ages tried to bury. This channel uncovers the darkest, bloodiest, and most terrifying truths of the medieval world stories they never taught you in school. Subscribe for more tales of plague, war, madness, and survival. Because in the Middle Ages, death was just the beginning. Turn on the bell. Watch what history tried to forget.